Good afternoon, and welcome to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. I am your host, Kevin King. He is I, and I am him, the 800 Credit Score Man himself. And once again, thank each and every one of you guys for coming in and tuning in to the 800 Credit Score Man Show. Share this show with all of your friends and your families and your followers, no matter where you are. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, send text messages. Share this show with all of your people. So thank you very much again for coming in and listening. Today, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to tell you right up front what we'll talk about. We're going to talk about some facts and some fallacies, things that are true and things that are false of what people think about the credit scoring system. So we're going to get into that today, as well as I'm going to tell you what's on your credit report. I'm going to detail out these 5 areas that are on your credit report. So stay tuned so you know what to look for on your credit reports, and you need to make sure that that information is accurate. So that's what we're going to talk about today on the 800 Credit Score Man Show. So let's get into the show in just a moment. Let me tell you guys this. Remember those good old days of dual income, no kids, double-digit pay raises, and 2-for-1 stock splits? Well, these days, money's a lot harder to get a hold of and even harder to hang on to. That's why State Farm agent Paul Downing would like to introduce you to the Discount Double Check. He'll go through your car insurance policy line by line to make sure you're getting the discounts you deserve and aren't leaving any money on the table. It's fast, it's free, and when he's done finding you 10% here, 15% there, you could find yourself looking at discounts of up to 40%. That can mean savings worth hundreds of dollars, and that's a pretty good return for simply investing a few minutes of your time. So call State Farm agent Paul Downing today at 219-884-6947. Because being there to help keep more of your money in your pocket is why he's here. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. All right, y'all, so let's jump into the show, all right? So I want to start off the show. I want to give a shout-out. I got a couple shout-outs to give. I want to give a shout-out to Joella Mylan. Joella celebrated a birthday on Thursday, so happy birthday to you, Joella. I also want to give a big shout out to Frederica Vaughn. Freddie, I want to give you a huge shout out. She's a big supporter of the show. I've known her a long time, a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So happy birthday to you. She celebrated a birthday on yesterday. So happy birthday. Okay, so let's jump into the show, you guys. So I told you, we're going to talk about these facts and fallacies. But before we get to the facts and fallacies portion, let's go ahead and talk about what's actually on your credit report. So some of you may be familiar with this. If you've been listening to the 800 Credit Score Man Show, I'm sure you have gotten your credit report if you never saw it before. I'm sure you've gotten that credit report, you've looked at it, and you kind of know what's on the credit report. I can actually go through a credit report in my head and know exactly where everything is because I've looked at so many of them. Everybody doesn't have that particular experience. If you have not gotten your credit report and you haven't looked at it thoroughly, I suggest you go to www.annualcreditreport.com. That's annualcreditreport.com. It's all one word. Go there and get your official credit report from all 3 credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. You can get it there. If you're looking at it online, you're using somebody like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, it just looks a little different. They've made it user-friendly, if you will, so you can go and look through the different categories. But if you want to see basically what your lenders would see, if you went to go get an auto or you apply for a mortgage loan, if you want to see it in black and white the way that they do, go to www.annualcreditreport.com. All right, so what's on your credit report? There are 5 areas on your credit report. And so the first area on your credit report is simply your identifying information. So it has your name, if you have had a different name at some point in time, if you ever signed the application and you put a middle initial on there, then it'll show your name and just a middle initial. It may have your full name, first, middle, and last name. If you have a suffix, junior, senior, the third, the fourth, whatever. If you've been married before and that name changed, your maiden name will be on there as well. So your identifying information is, of course, going to have your name. Then it also has your address on there as well. So to have your current address, if you filled out an application anywhere and you had to put your address down, then your address is going to be on there. Oftentimes you will see several addresses because it'll have your old addresses on there as well, places that you have lived before because you signed the application or put in the application somewhere. It'll have those former addresses as well. Now, it's important for you to have this information correct. If you are, especially if you're on the brink, you're on the brink of good credit to bad credit. If you're on the brink in that regard, or you're on the lower portion of this credit scoring system, then you need to have that accurate information. It's only going to help your application and the process go smoother for you if you have the correct address on there. Also will be your social. Now, nowadays, your entire social security number should not be on your credit report, just for your own safety and security, because of course there's fraud out there. People are, stealing people's identity and things of that nature. So you don't want anyone to have your entire social security number. So typically it'll be the last four if it's on there at all, but that helps anybody that's looking at your credit to know that this is this person. You write your social security number down in an application. When they pull your credit report, they're going to look at it, verify it. If it matches, then great. They just move on to the next thing. So your social security number, or at least the last four digits, is also on your credit report. The next thing that's on there is going to be your date of birth, and it should be the full date of birth. So it'll give, I was born April the 12th. It's going to be April the 12th, and then your year as well. So it'll have that on your credit report. That also needs to be correct. If you've ever filled out an application, especially I'm going to tell you about like a mortgage application. If you fill out a mortgage application and say you do it online with one of these online places, and your birthday, my birthday's the 12th. So if I click the 11th by mistake and I couldn't change it, I might have to do the entire process over again, because when they look at my ID, they'll say, this says April the 12th, application says April 11th, and they just want to make sure everything is correct, especially when you're applying for a mortgage. So make sure that that's correct on your credit report as well. And then your employer information is on your credit report. So you'll see on your credit report, you'll see several past employers, but you should have your current employer on your credit report as well. That only helps you and with the whole process as well, because if you're filling out an application and you're putting out all your information down, of course, any application they're going to ask you where do you work, how much money do you make, things of that nature. And so that information needs to match. If you just changed jobs and this is the first time you're filling out an application for some type of money or some type of account, then it may not be on there, because the way the credit bureaus actually get that information is they get that information when you do that, when you fill out an application. So it may not be on there right then, but it's important to have the correct employer information on there, especially if you have good to decent to excellent credit, because there's no reason to not to have it on there. If you've got bad credit, maybe you have a reason to not have it on there and have it correct, because you don't want your collection agencies calling you because they see that you work at XYZ company. So that employer information just helps the whole process go a lot smoother, a lot faster if you have that correct information on your credit report. Secondly, what's on your credit report? Your accounts. This is the biggest portion of your credit report. This is what everybody's looking at. This is what they want to see. They want to see, who do you owe? How much do you owe? What are your balances? Things of that nature. So your accounts are on your credit report. So they need to see all of that information, what kind of financial agreements that you have. So the type of accounts that you'll see on your credit report under accounts is your credit cards, if you have any of those. If you don't have a credit card, I'm going to suggest that you get one. I always say, know thyself. So make sure you know thyself. It may not be the best thing for you if you can't control that buying impulse and may get in trouble. But if you've had issues in the past, now you know better. You know not to do that again. So I would consider getting a credit card if you don't have one. So back to the type of accounts that are on your credit report. It'll be your credit cards, your car loan if you have a car loan, mortgages, student loans will be on there, and personal loans as well. Again, personal loans are not loans from your mama or your auntie. Personal loans are from companies that give personal loans. So there are companies out there where you can go in and get a personal loan. And I'm not talking about payday loan type places either. They are not on your credit report, and they typically do not appear on your credit report unless you have an issue with them and they have to sue you or what have you. Then they might be on your credit report. Other than that, as a monthly reoccurring account on your credit report, they are not there. So then, what else is on your credit report in regards to the accounts? When you look at each individual account, what you'll see is the date that the account opened. That's good for you if you have an old account and it's still active and it's open. That longer length of history, how long you've had it, works well for you. So you want to make sure that the date is correct as well. I don't care if it's off by a month. If you open an account in January of 1999 and it says you opened that account January 2000, you want to make sure that it's corrected and it says 1999. That 1 year can help you with your length of history, which is 15% of your credit score. So it can absolutely help you. Make sure that information is correct. I don't care if it's off by a month. Make sure that that information is correct on that individual account. Also, you'll see what your limits is if it's a credit card. So you might have a credit card with a $500 limit. You may have one with a $10,000 limit. Make sure that that limit is correct. If you've ever asked for an increase and then you receive your increase, of course it's not going to show up right away. It's not instantaneous. It won't show up the next day. But the next month, 30 to 45 days, it should be corrected, because that's going to be helpful for you as well if your limits increase. So make sure that the limits are correct on your credit cards as well. Then if you have a loan, whether it's a mortgage or if it's your auto or one of those personal loans, or if it's a student loan, the original loan amount is also going to be on your credit report and in each individual account. Then you'll also see your account balance. And you want to make sure that this is accurate, but I don't want you to freak out if it says you owe $800 and you actually owe $740. Don't freak out about that, because it's a very, very small amount. Don't freak out about anything of that nature. Now, if you owe $800 and it says you owe $8,000, that's an issue. You need to make sure that you contact the lender, whoever that account is with. You need to make sure you contact them to make sure that they correct it on your credit report, because that's going to be a big deal for you. It could hurt or help you. And I think one of the other portions today, when we talk about fact or fallacies later on in the show, that's going to become apparent for you that your account balances need to be correct. And the big one, the last one under your accounts, the big one is your payment history. That's going to be listed there right next to the account. It'll tell how well or how bad you have paid this account. Now, it's not giving individual dates. Say as if your payment is due on the 5th and you happen to make it on the 6th one day, 1 month. That's not going to be there, not like that, but it'll show basically a calendar. So it'll just have the year, so we're in 2017, and it'll go through January, February, March, April, May, so on and so forth, and it'll show if your account was okay, if it was 30 days behind and whatnot. So your payment history is the biggest portion of what your credit score is made up of, and that's 35%. So it's not just good enough to make your payments on time, because it's 35%. So that leaves another 65% out there to help you get the best score possible for you. All right. So that's what you're going to see under your accounts. Again, I want to emphasize to you that it's extremely, extremely important for you to make sure that this information is accurate. Each one of those different categories under your accounts can make or break if you're going to be approved for the next loan. And we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So look, we're almost halfway through the show already. So I'm going to take a pause from here. And what are we going to do? We're going to do the question of the day. The question of the day is brought to you by none other than Cute as a Cupcake, Cupcakery and Bake Shop, where the cupcakes are more than just cute, they're delicious. Cute as a Cupcake is located at 18. Where's Cute as a Cupcake located? Now I forgot where it's located at. Cute as a Cupcake is in Maryville, Indiana. Make sure you get by Cute as a Cupcake. I apologize, you guys. So look, question of the